So it's a very interesting, and without taking sides, without prejudging or post-judging all the various people, you have to understand that in order to understand or try and understand the people who went before us in the history and the events that took place. Now, does anybody have any quick questions before we wrap it up? Richard.
Personal opinion, because I know there's no way to really quantify one way or the other. Do you think it's more of an actual cultural thing or more of a socio-economical thing where basically without the violent acts, okay, there was really no way to draw global attention in order to get enough pressure applied politically for the statesmanship to work? So, I mean, it's
unfortunately,
everything else could have gone on forever before home rule or power sharing or anything else.
Can I weigh in on that just for a moment?
Sure.
In terms of the position, as I understand it, of the IRA, the old IRA in any event, is that you did not engage civilian targets. It was one thing to engage a military force with a military force. That's one thing. Engaging civilian targets or civilian victims as part of your package was never acceptable.
Well, in fact, didn't they oftentimes, make a phone call and announcement, it's like clear out the building, we're about to blow it up?
Yeah. It's all part of this very, very difficult question. There's a great scene in the movie Michael Collins when De Valera comes back from America and he announces that they're going to make a frontal assault on the Custom House. And Michael Collins throws his hands up in despair, like, oh my God, they're going to lose his best men. They did, and so on. Now and De Valera, or the character says, but they're calling us murderers. And I remember it so well. And Michael Collins, the pirate, says, what do you think war is? It's sheer bloody murder, And if you were here, instead of being back trollopsing around America, you'd know. You know what I mean? There is no such thing as a nice, clean, easy little war. Once you fire that first shot, Countess Markievicz shot a policeman dead face to face in cold blood.
Do you know, when they ran out of ammunition, she had command in 1916.
Yeah.
And all the guys are ready to surrender.
Yeah.
And she says, fixed bayonets.
Yeah.
And they're thinking, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, she was.
Can't we just surrender like the rest of them?
But this, you see, you cannot sit in a nice drawing room and say, we're going to have this nice clean war over here, and no women and children are going to get hurt. No. It doesn't work that way.
These aristocratic women that are part of the movement and part of the history had served years and years and years in British jails, on and off their entire lives as part of their commitment to the movement.
Yeah, true. They made a commitment, period, and they understood that. But to answer your question, I don't think it's impossible. It isn't. And that's what makes this whole thing so interesting and so fascinating, because once you let slip the dogs of war, and you have justified it in your own mind, you are going to hurt people, probably innocent people. Innocent people are going to get hurt. And so many people have faced that, including Maud Gonne, who knew that the decision that she would make in that split second meant that some of the folks that was defending her would get shot down, or whether she should give in to the police and disperse and so on.
But the decision on the rules of engagement are decided by the High Command. It's not a random thing. It's not letting slip the dogs of war and let mayhem rule. Like, the rules of engagement are always decided by the High Command. So how a force, a military force of any kind, engages in a struggle is determined by the quality of the commanders that they have above them.
It's more often determined by the quality of your enemy. If your enemy is doing things to you that are totally inhuman, you tend to find yourself going down that path.
Responding in kind.
Yeah.
So within the IRA, even within the IRA, there were different factions.
Yeah.
About how to pursue it, right? Because I think, I don't know, I guess another topic, but I think in a regular army that has more, it's more, I don't know, authoritarian and organized. So when you're, it leaves more room for not towing the line of these are the rules of engagement.
But
it would seem,
every army and every war perfectly respectable mother-son soldiers went in and burned hamlets and killed civilians. They did it in Vietnam, they did it in Iraq. Inevitably, it deteriorates into that. And it very rarely, except in the very, very distant past, when two soldiers clashed with each other and they fought it out, and there was half of them, there was thousands left dead. Unfortunately, that is the rare occasion. Napoleon conquered Europe, and he killed cities all over. Almost always, once you unleash the dogs of war, the generals can say all they like, but at the end of the day, it's nasty. And unfortunately, we have killed a lot of people in Iraq in the last few years that we won't know about. Maybe it's the next generation that will find out just what we did. So therefore, it makes it all the tougher for people who know and have been there and understood that this is what's going to happen. And does that then become their rationale for not doing it, or do they do it despite it, and are they heroes? It's an extremely tough question. And as for whether, was it you that said, who asked would it actually have made a difference?
No,
and
it's basically for your opinion. It's
okay, well, I want to give my opinion, then we'll leave. Because
so many people tend to think that it's just an Irish thing.
Well, it certainly is not an Irish thing, because...
Is it just an Irish thing, you think, or is it just, it's more of a socio-economic thing with any culture, where if somebody's stepping on your throat, and you're asking, remove your foot, and they're not ignoring you, sooner or later, someone's got to blow the leg off.
Can I quote from the Declaration of Independence, which starts, when in the course of human events, it's the same old story.
Yeah. Well...
Starting from that sentence, and go from there.
Okay.
Same old story for every nation.
Okay, well...
It becomes necessary to fight for your freedom, fight for your rights. By whatever means necessary.
And if we do have to make an editorial decision at the very end, the history tends to suggest that power does go out of the barrel of a gun, as Mao Zedong said. It does tend that violence is just part of human nature.
But also, if you want the people in Parliament or in anywhere else, if you want them to just listen, pay attention and listen, if you want to exert some global power to make them pay attention to the problem and listen, sometimes you got to blow shit up.
It seems that way. And on that on that great philosophical note, sometimes you got to blow shit up. You get that, folks?
Well, like you were saying, World War I, they started dividing everything up. Well,
yeah.
Again, look, let's take action for action.
Yeah.
Not to belittle anything else, but is what English have been doing to the Irish for centuries any different than what Hitler did to the Jews? In action. Never mind the reasons behind it or the centuries of political this or religious that, but in action, lining people up against the wall simply because they were Jews, lining up simply because they're Irish Catholics. In action, same thing. Holocaust still getting global attention and a huge.
But it has happened.
And yet the Irish situation covered up and denied and ignored forever and ever and ever until something blew up and then all of a sudden.
But whether violence is a necessary part of politics, I would have to say it always has been, and it probably always will be.
Amen. Good night.
Well, I won't say amen, but unfortunately, yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. I'm sure I didn't deserve that.